Welcome, Regenerators, to the conversation that I've got happening this week. This is Kira. Welcome, Kira.
Hi.
She's been a friend for over 10 years now, and I probably class her as one of my really close friends now, and she just lives up the road, and so we're very fortunate to be able to have this conversation. So Kira, I just would like to know who you are and why you are on this journey with the regenerative side of things.
Sure. Hi, I'm Kira Pucher. I run a small business on the Gold Coast called Body and Balance. I'm a therapist as well, a bodywork therapist, and I treat horses as well. I'm an equine therapist, and I run whole food nutrition workshops for people wanting to change their lifestyle, people coming in with diseases such as cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and I'm very dedicated to pretty much helping young kids because I see that's where our next generation is really needing that help, and I'm seeing it not really happen too well at the moment. So I'm passionate about kids. I run kids whole food cooking classes in the school holidays, and I would love to create as well a almost like a cooking college for kids so they can work their way up and then go out into the world and spread what we're trying to do here. So yeah, that's pretty much what that is.
Was there ever any significant thing that happened to you in your life that you gave that mind shift towards regenerative side of things?
Well, I guess we just go back a little bit in time. I was born in Africa. I've got grandmother in Austria, so our family's been involved in biodynamic and organic winery, vineyards in Austria for 300 years. So I think I kind of have something in my blood, and my dad was the same as well. So was born in Africa, grew up in Africa, and we had a beautiful property, and probably by the age of 16, 17, I was dabbling in growing my own food and fruit trees on the property, well-established fruit trees. We had horses, we had animals, so we were literally surrounded by nature. We were immersed in it, really. And so probably at the age of 21, 22, I was quite focused on what was happening around the world, what was happening around people's diet and diseases. They just fascinated me. And at that stage, I turned vegan. So a young person turning vegan did it amazingly well. And just had all my amino acids in one meal, had all my enzymes, and so that pretty much, I would say, would have been my shifting point, because I didn't turn vegan for myself. I turned vegan because I was reading what was happening to our dairy cows. I was reading what was happening to our meat animals, the animals that are providing us with food. And I was learning some horrific facts about what happens to them being farmed, and being farmed at high scale. So I kind of looked at the whole scenario and thought, this isn't good enough. There's no ways that I'm going to be taking milk from a cow where her calf needs it, and I'm not going to be eating that pig that has been in a small crush for its whole life and hasn't seen sunshine. So none of that related very well with me anymore. So it was pretty much overnight. Turned vegan, but at that stage I was running and owning restaurants in South Africa, so the two worlds kind of clashed a little bit. And I did as much as I could, but I was already at that stage trying to I guess run food coaching classes. So I was in my early 20s doing that as well, and then went on to basically help open and run one of the first whole food emporiums, probably in Johannesburg at the time. So we made everything in our kitchens. It was a massive kitchen. We baked, we ground, we just pretty much made everything from scratch, and then put it out into this beautiful restaurant. So it was quite a new way of thinking, especially in Africa, because it is such a meat-consuming society.
Right.
And it was a really intense thing for a young person to go into, because I was so passionate about it. And then because we had such beautiful land and we had so many animals that were providing us with this great compost, and my dad was this amazing compost maker, and it was his pride and joy, and that's where he would go. That was his dark cave, right? Was his compost heap. And we would all go around and he would say, come on, stick your fingers in the compost heap and see how hot it is. And it would be like, my God, this place is just, it's roasting. And so it was just like, you just grew up with it. And so then I looked at our land, and it was pretty much virgin soil. Hadn't had fertilizers, sprays, chemicals on, hadn't been run by a cattle farmer or anything like that. So literally for me, it was pretty much a matter of just building the soil up. And within no time, I had this thriving little organic, biodynamic, medicinal herb business going. I was supplying herbs to health shops and restaurants. So I was small scale. I didn't go overboard just with one crop. I would just create a whole diversion of crops, and it was basically through learning about permaculture as well and the biodynamic diversity of the soil that helped build it up. So
at this point then, because you were then aware that animals needed to be present to produce the compost, were you still vegan?
So at this stage, I was still vegan. I was vegan for 7 years.
Okay.
And then my body started to change. So in those formative years, in the early 20s, I probably wouldn't recommend for somebody to turn vegan, because your body is actually still growing. Your hormones are still being produced. Your bones are still setting down bone. And I just, towards the end of 7 years, I wasn't feeling 100% well. And I was eating so well, like it was just brilliant, the way we were eating. But it didn't do quite well. So yes, I went back and I started eating wild fish again. And now I bring in some, it's always organic and organically farmed animals, preferably from the small scale grower. Excuse me, that looks after his animals. The animals need to be out in the sunshine. They need to be getting their vitamin D and converting it in their gut into nutrients that we can take up. And that's what I'm teaching now. Yes, you don't have to be vegan. You don't have to be a meat eater, or you can be whatever you want to be. But it's how do we consciously now move forward in the way we grow our food, in the way we grow our animals, and how are they treated. I think it's massive.
And are you seeing that? So in the last 10 years that we've been friends, have you seen a decline in children's health?
It's huge. It's so diverse, and there's not one thing that you can really say, well, it's just that. We're seeing families not sit around a dinner table anymore. And when I run the workshops, I say to people, one of my main things is, how do you start your meal? Do you prepare your meal? Do you pick it? Do you chop it? Even if you don't pick it, but do you stand there and chop your food? Are you getting the smells? With the smells coming up, we're actually starting to produce an amylase enzyme in our mouth already. So before we've even put food in our mouth, we're starting to prepare for digestion. Now, if you think about our fast world today, it's the thing gets slapped into the microwave, gets completely denatured, and then we're eating on the run. So there's no time for this simple enzyme to be formed. So it's very much about our family sitting around a table, even our kids out in the sunshine, with bare feet. That first sunshine in the morning is just perfect, and we need that to create our hormones for the day. So we're not doing that. Kids are waking up, they're going onto their computers, they're going into school on their computers. Then they're coming home, or they're opening up their lunchbox, and it's completely filled with denatured food that has been sitting on a shelf for years. So, I wouldn't say it's just one thing, but it certainly is. We've got to slow down. We have to start knowing where our food is coming from, and we have to ask the big conglomerates to face up and actually let us know where our food is coming from, whether it's a GM seed that is put on the shelf, whether it is GM. So, I always say to people, you can take back that power. We do have the right to ask our supermarkets, what is GM, what isn't. And from there, you know, as people start to stand up and actually ask for what they need again, we will start to change things, most definitely.
So do you think then we've got a better chance of fighting disease and improving our health with the way that we are, well, the regenerative way of eating food?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There are so many statistics as in what's happening to our immune system. And so each year we come out with, or new viruses come out, and each year there are new vaccines that come out. And it's not a topic about vaccines. This is a topic about each year, for thousands of years, we've had viruses, we've had diseases come through, we've had them wipe out people. Now, what are we doing now to create an immune system that can handle this? Because these viruses aren't going to go away. They will keep coming, and they're probably the same ones might keep coming back. So it's how are we going to build ourselves up? Because that's what we need to start doing.
And that sort of leads on then to this thing called microbiome that not many people have heard of, I don't believe. And I actually learnt it through regenerative farming. So they're talking about the microbiome within, around seeds even, and within the soil structure. And then of course it passes it on to the plant. And we've got a microbiome as well. Can you just sort of enlighten us on what that is and how it works?
Sure. Yeah, so the microbiome, we're quite diverse, and that's why the human body is so perfect. There's no machine that can touch us really in any way. We have a digestive system that starts from basically here. Now, I'll just give you an example quickly. Today's world, not many women want to have the natural birthing anymore. So people are coming in, doctors, you know, might not want to be there present. So a lot of people are converting to or going to cesarean. Now, that already is the step one. So to me, it's, you know, it's once the baby is born, that's fine, we can build them up. But nothing beats that baby traveling down through the birthing canal, picking up the microbiome of the mother. But it can only pick up the microbiome of the mother if the mother actually has it. So, you know, you can start to see this big picture. It's not just what sits on our plate, it's how is that child being born? What's happening in our hospital systems? Does that child come down through the birthing canal, picking up the mother's microbes? Does she have the microbes? So, for example, some people can't digest dairy. And generally, if you go back in time, you could probably look at the mother or the parents and see whether the parents actually have the enzymes present in their own gut and their own system. And then you can often find that relates then to whether the child actually has that enzyme that can digest the lactose and the casein in the milk. So it's really diverse, it's really big. So the microbiome starts when we're giving birth. And in today's world, how many of the Western people are actually eating cultured food? So when you go into countries like Switzerland, India, South America, you know, all over the world, literally Africa even, they have staple foods, and they've known for centuries that these staple foods need to be broken down with enzymes, need to be fermented and cultured to actually take away enzyme inhibitors, which stop us absorbing nutrients, especially the B vitamin group. So these old cultures have known this. You know, ancient Egypt knew this. They lived on sauerkraut. This isn't something new. You know, we aren't the newfangled people. We're the not conventional. But the conventional really is us in a way, because we are going back to what humans originally did, you know, in the past. So sourdough bread, breaking down our grains, the phytates in the grain, fermenting our soybeans before we eat them, because otherwise we don't digest them well. They you know, they cause detrimental effects in the body. So you can look at this in such a big way. It's such a big topic.
So with that though, just going back, if you don't have the enzyme, for example, to break down milk, can you put it back into your system?
Well, yeah, there is a way, and absolutely the human body is amazing. So there are ways that you can slowly build the system up to create its own enzymes. And so, you know, through changing our biome, our microbiome, through our gut, through our digestive system, And we have so many different bugs basically in us. You know, we've got trillions of bugs in us, more than we actually have cells. So it's massive. You know, we're just bugs. We're literally a walking bug, and it's so exciting, right? Because, you know, all our fermentation, when I run the fermentation and the cultured food workshops, I'm not adding a culture from a bottle. I'm simply getting the bugs on the plant, on the cabbage leaf, to do the fermenting, to culture the food. The same as the grains. So the grains, you know, nature is perfect, absolutely perfect. On the grain, we have enzymes. On the grain, we have bugs. Now, in ancient cultures, they wouldn't harvest their grain and put it in silos straight away. Often that grain would be harvested, left out overnight, you know, for 3 days before they could get to it. In that time, we've had dew, we've had rain. That's already now started this whole enzyme and this whole microbe breakdown. So by the time they then process their grains, like the wheat, the original wheat grain, it had already been broken down. The phytates had already been neutralized in it because of the weather, the sun. But nowadays, our grain is basically chopped, popped into silos, and then, you know, it's already oxidated. The oils in that have already oxidated, and it hasn't had time to break down. So then we eat bread that hasn't been baked with a culture, and basically, you know, we just have an epidemic where people cannot tolerate wheat anymore. And it's not, I don't think it's so much the wheat, it's that our biome, our microbiome, just, there's nothing there, really.
Doesn't recognise it.
No.
Yeah, and also with the whole breeding as well.
Yeah.
The protein on the outside is not recognisable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Once you start digging deeper, you just come into this whole solar system of
It's
amazingness.
massive.
Yeah.
It is massive.
So when I mentioned to you about collaborating to form the Regenerator app, were you excited, and what can people expect from you now that we've sort of heard a fair bit of that information? I think we've got a fair idea.
Well, we could go on for days, I think. It is massive. It really is. As you can see, we start on one topic, and one topic leads to the next. So when Tamsin said, hey, come aboard and be involved in this was like, you've got to be kidding, because this really is where we need to be going. You know, we're all working in our little fields, but if we can bring groups like ourselves together, you know, we become more powerful, because we each offer something so different to it, instead of just one person having their speciality. So that it's really big. Yeah, I'm stoked.
Okay, and so with everything that you have shared with us in this conversation, do you believe mainstream society needs a Regenerator app? A one-click wonder to learn about regenerative farming, growing your own food, actually tasting the food, the fermentation side, microbiomes, all of that, all under one little click of the button.
Yeah, I think as well, you know, we are moving into, we see it in our children, we're moving into a world that is becoming so fast, and nobody wants to even dial your number twice. You know, you've got to be there on your phone and answering it once. So if something like this is created, it becomes this under one umbrella. And it's, people don't have to keep searching, oh, where do I find this, where do I find that? You know, we're fortunate enough on the Gold Coast to have brilliant organic growers. A lot of them are turning to really good biodynamic, regenerative, a lot around near Wollumbar, and they're fantastic, these growers. So if we can support people like this, and then slowly other farmers will hopefully see what is happening, that our soils aren't going to last for another 10 years if we keep doing what we're doing to them. The animals aren't going to produce what we need as humans to fight disease. So if we have this under one umbrella, it really is really amazing.
Yeah. So and where do you see farming heading towards in the next 5 to 10 years, and the food system, and do you believe that we can take back control and start demanding regenerative food?
Sure, absolutely. I see a huge big movement. You know, the Gold Coast isn't huge, and yet on a Sunday or on a weekend, from Friday through to Sunday, you probably have a choice of 3 or 4, maybe even more, really, really good certified organic growers. So these are people that are changing their soil. You know, when you speak to these farmers and they come down and their capsicums are these just these amazing things and they just bounce with life, it's phenomenal. So I think the more people that are demanding it, we're starting to see it a lot more in our supermarkets. I think what I would like to see as well is that the farmer themselves are better cared for. Because if we keep these markets going, we as consumers get to know our butchers, we get to know where our fish come from, we get to know our farmers. We have this relationship, and as human beings, no computer can take that away from us. We do need to converse. And so what you'll tend to find is, I encourage people, get to know your butcher. Ask him where the animals are farmed, how they're farmed. As much as I can, I go out to different farms and talk to the farmers and find out what their hiccups are, what their problems are, what they're battling with. There's a lot going on around Europe as well. Switzerland, there's a whole town that's just put their foot down and they've just gone, we are absolutely not just going to go down to the supermarket. We are absolutely going to demand from our government. We want to know where our seed is coming from. We want to go back to heirloom growing. So we're going back to the original, even the original chicken, those type of things. So we are moving forward. The world is moving so quickly. And I think what we really need to do is get people to take 10 steps back, because we do need to start sitting down at our dinner table and we do need to go out into the sunshine with our feet in the earth and pick our own food. Because when I look around somewhere like Guanabara Valley, we've got acreage, 10-acre properties, and I see very little food being grown. Yeah. Can you imagine, compared to countries like Thailand, where they have such small space, and yet they just grow so much? Yeah. So we do need to, I think it's just a matter of rethinking, retraining people to go, we can do this. It's beautiful to see our kids go and pick their carrots. And
I know that for me personally, 10 years ago when I was setting up my business and I did have a veggie patch, it just died because I just couldn't spend the time that I needed to do it. And now, of course, 10 years on, it's not so hectic with the business and I do have time to nurture it.
That's right.
But I think you get to an age as well where you just go, you know what, I need to slow down because out there is too scary.
Absolutely.
It's just too full on and I don't get half of it.
It's too full on, exactly. And I think that's where, sometimes when you have a room full of people and they come from all walks of life, you've got lawyers and doctors, people that just live so fast. And I think everybody is starting to click on that something isn't right. We've got so much technology around us. Our kids are suffering from it. We've just got, people need to switch off. And the only way we can really switch off is to go out into a garden, because there's nothing better. It's vitamin D. And if our cattle aren't grazing on green grass, they're not obtaining that vitamin D, that vitamin K that they then convert. So, it becomes such a big topic.
Thank you, Kira. I think time's up. That'll be the curry we're cooking. Oh, great. Okay, but we're seriously looking forward to more conversations and more watching you with your recipes and everything like that, and learning lots.
Thanks very much. It's been awesome. Really awesome.
Cool.